Welcome back, friends, to my channel, Slow Down with Sarah Jean, where I'm an aspiring homesteader trying to live within modern times. I thought that I would give you guys a little bit of a garden tour today and also talk about how I had a later frost than normal last week, and it took out about 1/4 of my tomato plants. So it was completely devastating. I started all my tomatoes from seed this year and they were doing awesome. And I waited till Mother's Day to plant them, which is like a normal time for us. And then last week, so we're basically at the end of May now, and last week we had a frost. I tried to cover them, and I guess I didn't know what to cover them with because I covered them with plastic sheets that we have. And that is a big no-no. You're supposed to cover them with old bed sheets, or you could do like gallon, like the big plastic gallon jugs, or if you had milk cartons, you could do that. And I just covered it with whatever I had, and some of them, a lot of them, did not do very well. However, I did have a friend who offered me some of her starts that she started from seed, thank God. And she also gave me some peppers, even though I had a lot of peppers. I hadn't planted those yet. I'm gonna be planting those today. And I'm also gonna be planting the new tomato plants that I got from my friend. And she gave me some peppers, jalapenos, and so I'm gonna go ahead and planting those today. This will be my 5th year gardening, and I learn something new every year, and now I know that I will wait just a little bit longer next year to plant all of my warm, loving crops. So that would be like zucchini, cucumbers. Like all of my cucumbers died. Super devastating, especially because I recently went out and bought cucumber starts, and I started my own from seed, and I had planted all of those, and I would say there's like 3 left. So that was pretty upsetting, but what can you do? I tried to start all of my plants from seed this year, and normally I just do like a couple. Like the years prior, I've done just a couple, and this year I went like all out and tried to do them all from seed. And I think that it's okay if some died. It's not the end of the world. Like I was telling a couple friends that thankfully we have the modern conveniences of being able to go to a nursery or type on Facebook and see if any friends have any extra seedlings available, or just go to the nursery and buy some seedlings if our plants die. Can you imagine being our ancestors and they had crops already planted, and all of a sudden they couldn't even tell the weather, you know, and say they didn't cover their crops and the frost took them out, and that was going to be what was feeding their family for the next year? Like that's completely devastating. And so even though I might have shed a tear or two when a lot of my plants died off, I'm thankful that I'm able to replace them with nursery plants or ones from friends as well. So I thought it would be fun today if I just took you along, like I said, a little garden tour, show you guys what's growing, what's looking good, what's not looking good, and we'll plant some peppers and tomatoes together. So let's get to it. Okay, so this whole row here is all tomatoes, and then I added a couple more down the bottom here. And then the like last row here, these are all strawberries. So those actually did fine. I would say like the first beginning of my tomatoes were fine. The middle ones, some of them didn't do so well, and then some on the end didn't do so well. Let me show you. Okay, so this first couple of tomatoes are what I was going to be using to can. So I've already gone through and clipped off a lot of the dead leaves. In hopes that they would, you know, come back, which a lot of them have. You can see that they look pretty good. This one, it's coming back. Definitely looks better than it did. And then, you know, I have these that did not come back, and this one and a couple of these did not come back. But like I said, very thankful for friends that gifted me their tomato seedlings. Let's move down here. We have these ones, and I also have crushed eggshell here. If anybody's wondering, it's to provide calcium to the soil, and I will mulch soon. I'm going to go ahead and throw straw, which I started to do down on the end. I'll go show you that, and that's what I use to mulch my beds and such. It's just a chive plant that I did last year, and I've been propagating and putting other places, but I left some here. So these ones don't look too bad. They definitely need to be trellised for sure. Now that this one actually looks really good, and needs to be trellised for sure. I'm leaving for vacation tomorrow, so I don't know if that'll get done before I leave, but you can see this one's a goner, complete goner. And see, like, it might just, it's also been very cold at night, so it might stunt the growth a little bit, but hopefully these will produce. And this one died, and I had two on the end die, and these two look pretty good. And so this is how I'll mulch all of the whole row. We're just gonna go ahead and take out these not so great looking ones, pop them out. I'm probably gonna weed while I'm at it, so that way I can just throw all of my mulch on top of this after, and give it a good water. So I mulch because, well, I'm very pregnant, but also it eliminates a lot of, so it basically like suppresses the weeds, makes it easier to weed, and it also feeds the soil at the same time. So I just use like straw, and I'm just gonna go in between the plants and go ahead and mulch just a little bit. Some people don't like to mulch, some people use weed fabric. I find that I used straw last year and I really liked it, and it just decomposes and keeps the soil moist longer. And yeah, so I'm also just gonna come and get off whatever crusty leaves are left here, and eventually I will prune the tomatoes as well. And basically what that means is, as the tomatoes grow up, I'm going to go ahead and cut off probably up to a foot of the bottom branches, so that way they don't touch the soil, because that's how they're going to get more diseases. Diseases, it's like something that the plant gets where it starts to die.
Oh. That was Chase. Mommy? Why are you playing? Do you want me to help you?
Yeah.
I need a shovel.
Go get one.
Go get one really quick. Get the one for me! No, only if you're in the garden.
She can have one.
What? Get the one for me in the garden. I take the one for me in the garden.
Okay, so I'm just gonna dig this one out. It's, oh, actually, you know what? Is this one gonna come back to me? I don't know. Some of them I'm like, it's definitely not gonna come back, but this one doesn't look too bad. And well, looks pretty bad on the top here, but it looks like these leaves might be coming back here. I might try to leave this one and see. I just worked so hard that I'm like, do I want to take it out? I mean, we can see what happens with that one. Alright, this one's definitely a goner. I'm not seeing that one come back, so I'm gonna go ahead and dig a hole. Loosen up this soil a little more. I'm gonna show you guys, so I actually bought this one at a farmer's market and I'm going to pinch off the bottom leaves, because what will happen is roots will form here, and then I'm going to plant it this deep, just as deep as that last little node. So just as deep as that last little node, picked off those branches, and then I'm going to plant it that deep so that it encourages more roots.
Right here. What? Right here. Over. You happy? Apple too. Apple too. Where's the food? Nobody. What? I like that.
We're going to end up having more than that died on me, so that's okay. I'll take more tomatoes. So just gonna water all this after, and then I need to focus on figuring out trellis situations. Okay, so same thing. Gonna take it out, pick off the bottom 2 stems, and then plant it really deep. All right, so I was able to replace the plants that I wanted to, and then I also planted like a couple extra here in the middle, and we'll see what happens to the ones that don't really have leaves on top, but the leaves are growing from the bottom. So we'll see if those do well, and you know, if not, at least I planted these couple of extras, and then we're gonna go ahead and plant the peppers right here in the middle. So I thought we could compare the roots. I soil blocked all of my peppers, and I would say they did pretty well. And these are peppers that my friend gave me. We're going to compare. Honestly, this doesn't look too root bound either. So I like the soil blocking because it saved me money in containers, but I think if you were using containers, that would be just fine too, because these both look very healthy, and I'm going to pinch off the tops so it encourages them to split off into 2, and we are also going to trellis these eventually as well. Before I go to plant this next pepper plant, I'm going to show you what I do to encourage more growth. So you can see here, this is a long stem. It has a couple of nodes, and so this might be a little painful to some, but all I'm going to do is just find this very top of the stem. I want to make sure it's the main stem, and just pinch it off. And I will encourage 2 more main stems to grow off of this one plant. Right, so I planted all of the tomatoes and peppers between these 2 rows, and then I think I mentioned it already, but these are strawberries, so they won't be here past a month or so. Especially come harvest time, they won't be here for sure. So here's a little look. Obviously nothing's trellised yet, but see if some of the tomatoes are salvageable that aren't looking so great. I plucked off whatever leaves I could, and I am not going to get to mulching today. I have to finish packing for my trip. I leave tomorrow, so I will mulch when I get back. And let's take a look at the rest of the garden. And then here's my tower garden, which I had to replace some of the things because the frost also took out my nasturtiums. The parsley looks like it's coming back now. And then over here I also have more snap peas. I'll have to trellis those when I get back. These are all my potatoes. I'm using the Ruth Stout method there, and I don't know, hopefully they sprout soon. My other ones in the grow bags have sprouted, but let's see. What else do we have? We have some broccoli or cabbage. I want to say that's broccoli there on the end, and then I also have some cabbage, and over there we have celery. I actually got to mulching this bed today. We have more broccoli over here, and newly sprouted we have some kohlrabi. My first year growing that. Over here we have zucchini. Yes, honey? Not right now, honey. Allie's not home. Can you please give me a few minutes? Here we have zucchini, which the frost, I did cover these with buckets, and the frost doesn't look like that one's doing too good. That's why I planted that one there, to see if I'm going to need it or not. I know these are a little crowded, but we'll see what ends up happening with that. And over here I have green beans. And then here I have leeks and some watermelon and melons I planted in there, which are just now sprouting up. I have radishes here. Yes. Ask your father. Here I also have broccoli, and then this is a red Merlot lettuce, and carrots are interplanted between the lettuce. And I also just have some like basil and random cabbages that I had left over. Looks like some of them are coming up still. Over here we have cauliflower or cabbage. I don't know. I'm really terrible at labeling my plants, you guys. And then we'll also have more melons and watermelons, and I planted loofah gourds, and it'll all go above this trellis. My garlic over here is looking good. Need to cut off some scapes and fertilize that. Should do that today before I leave. Nothing in this bed yet, just some weeds. Over here did some beets and more beans. I think navy beans are over here. And then check out all of my potatoes in the grow bags. They're looking awesome. A couple of them I didn't cover these with the frost, and a couple of them, actually I think it was this one right here, didn't do too well, and it was dying off, and then I just clipped them and it's already grown back, so very forgiving. Yeah, you having a juice box? We have blueberry bushes here and here. And then right here I planted some rhubarb. And we have blackberry bushes there. And another little blueberry bush. This is what I covered the tomatoes with. Not recommended. I do cover my winter plants with this plastic, but never tomatoes. My onion bed is looking awesome. I actually think I might have to plant some more onions. This is about 85 onions, I believe. I would like to just plant maybe 50 more to get us through a whole year. We have the herb bed right here. I just decided to do a whole bed of herbs this year, so that's my oregano from last year. Planted some thyme. This sage is from last year. I also found some random lettuces growing in my compost, so I just planted those there. Got rosemary, cilantro going to seed, lettuce and dill, parsley. Here we have carrots, and this is where I'm going to trellis my cucumbers. Just going to use we use this for the winter cover. I'm going to go ahead and trellis the cucumbers, but I'm going to have to get more of those or try to do some seeds. Maybe I'll throw some seeds in there today. And this is spinach. So here in the front yard we have 2 apple trees that are looking good. We have some apples growing on them, so that's exciting. And then I planted some sunflowers and morning glories here. And we have mint. I always put mint in a pot because it spreads like wildfire. And then we have some chives. And then over here at a plant sale, I scored some comfrey, which is a medicinal herb. And I just have more morning glories and sunflowers over here, along with some echinacea that I planted. And let's take a walk. This is just a little different view of the garden. And I'll show you, I planted pumpkins and stuff as well. However, the frost wasn't very kind to those either. So I did I did pumpkins, butternut squash, and acorn squash right here. I kind of just like threw it in this pile, and I figured if it gets crazy, well, it's on the outside of the garden. So one of them I had saved because I was like, oh, I don't need so many acorn squash. And thankfully I saved it because a lot of them died off. And then my friend gave me some more butternut squash, so I just went ahead and planted that there. We have raspberry bushes, which have been getting eaten alive by caterpillars. I just put First Saturday lime on there, which is like crushed limestone, supposed to help. And more raspberries here. And let's see, weeds and raspberries here. So thanks so much for hanging with me today as I gave you a garden tour and we planted peppers and some tomatoes. I feel like even though I've been gardening for 5 years, I learn multiple new things every single year. I would think that even if you've been gardening for 20 years, there's something new that you're gonna learn or a pest that you're gonna deal with. And that's what's so fun about gardening, is there's so much to learn and so many different ways to garden. And I feel like no matter how long you've been doing this, there are things that you can do differently each year and things to figure out and whatnot. I will say last year I had squash bugs for the first time. I never even knew those existed. So they literally planted eggs inside of the roots, like the stem of my zucchini, and took over my whole zucchini plants, like all of them. And that was devastating. But I'm learning year after year how to deal with these pests, deal with these problems, and you can too. Gardening can seem overwhelming and seem hard, but year after year, I feel like a broken record, but year after year, you will figure things out. You can read all these books and watch all these videos, but actually getting your hands in the dirt and doing the dirty work will teach you what you need to know. And even though it was so hard for me to learn the hard way about waiting to plant, even though I was so eager to get my plants out, and I'm like, well, the Farmer's Almanac says this. I mean, it was weeks past our supposed last frost date, and we still got a frost. So what can you do? I tried my best, and that's all that matters. And thankfully, we do have those modern conveniences. And now I'm looking like a hot mess express. It's so hot out right now. I think it's like almost 80 degrees. Not the time to be in the garden. I need to get everything watered, get myself in the shower, and pack for my little mini getaway. If you love gardening and sourdough and cooking from scratch and natural living and everything in between, homesteading where you are at right now, I feel that you would love my channel. Feel free to hit that subscribe button and like this video. We have a visitor. make sure you like this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you've dealt with any pests or problems that you were not expecting in your garden and how you resolved them. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's a bird. And let me know how you resolved them. Stay tuned for next week's video. We will see you guys then. Bye. Wanna wave bye-bye? Bye. Right in the camera. Say bye-bye. Blow kisses. Oh, my sweet boy.